Good morning, everybody. This is Jim Exby with Compliance Professionals. It's great to talk to you again. Today I want to talk to you about what happens during an OSHA inspection, what OSHA's rights are, what the employer's rights are, and of course, what your rights are. Whenever OSHA is on the job site, there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of stress, and I think that's understandably so. Things aren't operating on the same plane when people are walking around and staring at what you're doing. You're always afraid you're making a mistake or you're going to make a mistake. And it's very bothersome. Since day one, here with Compliance Professionals, it has been our mandate to try and help keep people safe and to help us make a safe workplace for you and for the employer. OSHA has changed over the years. A long time ago, they used to walk onto the workplace and inspect it, and they would give you 30, 60, 90 days, and then they would come back and they'd try and be helpful. Now, if they walk onto the work site, please remember they are there to fine you, and that's the only reason that they have come there, to give you a fine. To fine the company, and in some states, too, they're now fining employees also if they see you doing something wrong. So, during any inspection, the compliance officer will likely request private one-on-one interviews of both management and maybe non-management employees in order to gather facts as to whether there may have been violations of the agency's regulations. So make no mistake, the ultimate purpose of these investigations is nothing other than to gather evidence to support the government's case, should the case go to court, and to solidify the government's ability to fine the company for any and all perceived violations of the OSHA code. That's the preferred interview technique, to separate the witnesses, to isolate them as much as possible. This places the employee, who is largely unfamiliar with the bureaucracy, in a very defensive and tenuous position. So here's some of the rights of OSHA. They have jurisdiction over the workplace. When they walk on the site, they can inspect, they can walk around, they can interview. But they have to do it within the scope of the investigation. Very easily explained, let's say they decide to be in the workplace because of silica. If that is the case, and I was there with them, we would walk all the way around until we got to the place on the job site where silica was being used, not walked through the workplace so they could observe everything that's being done. As an employee, you have three avenues of choice when you're interviewed by a compliance officer. Let me expound on these just a little bit. Number one, you may agree to the interview without representation. You may agree to the interview, but only with representation, and you may decline the interview entirely. Okay, here's what that means. The employee, if they so wish, has a right to a private one-on-one interview with the OSHA representative that is confidential and not considered a protected activity. The employee cannot and will not suffer any adverse effects whatsoever from sitting down and being interviewed by an OSHA representative. The employee has a right to be interviewed if they so desire, and I want to make that perfectly clear. The employee has the right to decline to have a one-on-one interview. You can say no. If they come up to you and say, I want to interview you in regards to some things I saw you doing, You can say, no, I'm really busy right now. You need to go talk to my supervisor. They have the right for a person, meaning you have the right for a person of your choice to attend the interview if you want to be interviewed. So you can say, yeah, okay, I'll have an interview with you, but I want somebody in the meeting with me. They're going to say, no, you can't do that. But you need to stick to your rights. Of course you can. You can say, I'm not going to be interviewed unless you have somebody in there with me. The company highly advises this course of action if you decide to be interviewed. Other than that, our recommendation is do not be interviewed at all. Turn it over to supervisors to be interviewed at all times. Let me give you an example if I can. This took place not too long ago. The OSHA representative was sitting there taking notes on a piece of paper, writing down things just furiously as to what is being done and what happened on the workplace. And then they said, oh, you know, I spelled a word wrong. I spelled the word workplace wrong right here. So I'm going to sign it right here. Now I need you to sign it right there. Okay? Just sign it right underneath where I signed it. If you do that, you're agreeing that everything that was written below here is 100% truthful and correct. I don't think you want to do that, considering the fact that you don't know what they're going to write here or what they have written here. You don't know if it's going to be truthful. However, when the interview is concluded, down really below, towards the bottom, there's a place for you to sign down there also. And they're going to want you to sign down there. Don't sign that either, because then you're agreeing with everything that they have written. Remember, these notes have been taken right here to incriminate the company and you. And you do not know what they have written down. I'm going to advise you, do not sign that. It'll be one of the worst things that you may have done. However, you do have the right to do this. You can say, Mr. OSHA representative, I'm sorry, I'm not going to sign that. However, I do want a copy of everything that you've written before you leave today. The employer, they have the right to inform its employees and to teach the employees about your rights. That's why I'm here today. The employer has the right to representation anytime an investigation is underway. That means the employer can say, hey, I'd like to have my attorney here. We'd like to have compliance professionals attorney here. They'd like to have Jim or Bob here also. The employer has the right to end an interview at any time they want to if the OSHA representative becomes disruptive in any way. And the employer has the right to ask an employee specifically what questions were asked of them during the private interview and what answers were given back to OSHA during that private interview. The employer also has the right to require a federal warrant to inspect the premises. However, I don't know if that's the best course of action to take, because I guarantee you OSHA will come back with a couple of marshals and a whole bunch of other OSHA inspectors. And they will go through the job site top to bottom. Okay? So it's important that you understand what those rights are, what your rights are. Remember, you have the right to end an interview at any time you want to. They could come in and say, I'd like to know what your name, address, and phone number is. And you can say, no thanks. Please talk to my supervisor. Okay? Every single time you can say, no thank you. I don't think I want to talk to you right now. They will also not give any Miranda warnings. If something's really gone wrong on a job site where somebody has been injured very seriously, they'll come in and ask you lots of questions. There's no Miranda warnings, but there is a good chance that some of those notes could be used in a court proceeding. So the one thing I would like to leave you with is this. They passed the Williams-Steiger Act in 1970, and that enabled the creation of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which was an employee right-to-know law. It was created for the working man and the working woman. It wasn't written for the benefit of employers or unions or of the bureaucracy and the courts, and that has been held repeatedly. It's about you. It's about what your rights are and what your choices are in the workplace. Please always remember, you're the one driving the bus because you have rights. You came with those rights. Those rights were given to you by the Constitution, and you should always remember them to keep yourself safe. Thanks very much, everybody. I'll see you next month. Please be safe.